Welcome to the Military Justice Today podcast with your host, Robert Capovilla and Mickey Williams, covering the full range of military law topics from all branches of the armed forces. Today's episode is made possible in part by the law firm of Capovilla and Williams. And now, let's welcome the hosts of the show, Rob and Mickey.
All right, everybody, here we go. Another episode of Military Justice Today. I'm Matt Starosiak, stepping in momentarily. To my right is Robert Capovilla. And are my eyes being true to me, Robert? I see somebody sitting across the desk from me today.
The Mick has returned.
How's everybody doing?
The legend is here, Mickey Williams.
I am here.
Great to see you, sir. We've talked about you almost every episode, I think. Most conversations revolve around the size of your biceps.
I don't really know what to say about it. I listen to them, I laugh, because to be honest with you, I don't think they're that big, but I'm glad you guys love them.
It's probably
No.
Weird,
Let's
though.
rephrase. I hardly ever talk about them because they're not important to me. Matt brings up your biceps every single episode. And I'll also say this. Mick has a bit of a cult following within Military Justice Today, the podcast. So I know that there's a whole group of folks that send us messages that are happy that Mickey's back.
There's love letters by the dozens laying around the office. Is that right?
Yeah, they're all sent by my dad and my wife, I think.
Well, Mickey, it's great to have you back in the studio. You've been busy, though, right? I mean, it's not like you've just been ignoring us. You've been busy.
Yeah, Rob brings in the work and someone's got to do the work. So that's what I've been doing. Rob works too. I don't want to make out like he's not out there doing cases. He is.
Once in a while, he makes a phone call.
Yeah, he does a damn good job at that too. But no, I've just been busy, man. Yeah, I've just been flying around, doing cases.
Had a good result this week, right?
Had a great result this week. Got a case dismissed, which doesn't happen. Air Force case too.
Full court martial?
It was a general court martial right before we are set to pick a jury. We get to go away.
Yeah.
Here's a good stat for you. Between Mickey and I's last two general court martials, our clients faced, I think, a total of 14 charges or specifications for sexual assault, domestic violence, all sorts of things. And of those 14 specifications, our clients were found guilty of a grand total of 1, and it was the one that I conceded in opening statement. So those are pretty good back-to-back results out of Air Force court-martials right there.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say so.
For sure. All right, gentlemen. Well, it's great to have you here, Mick. Robert, you as well. We've got a current topic that we're going to talk about today, the removal of Brigadier General Warren Wells from the Office of Special Trial Counsel. We're going to get into that. I think it's making its way around the headlines, right, on CBS, CNN, Fox News. It's just about everywhere. It's a big topic in military justice. So we'll talk all about that today, get your guys' opinions, have you weigh in on it. But are we doing a pre-show? Are we doing a meaningless topic today?
We are. We have, in my opinion, what will amount to the best pre-show topic we've ever had, which is
That's
Mickey.
A high bar.
That's a high bar or a low bar.
Yeah.
Mickey's going to tell us the story about how he proposed to his wife. And my title for the story is The Protein Container of Love.
The legend of Mickey Williams.
Yeah.
Isn't this this epitomizes the legend of Mickey Williams?
The Protein Container of Love.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'll tell you guys about this. Wow. Okay.
This is a long time ago, though, right?
Yeah. Let's see. Probably 20 years ago now. I was living in Savannah. My now wife and I had an apartment, and I was in the Ranger Regiment, and I had just gotten back from deployment, and I bought her this ring, and I had planned. My plan was to take her to where we first met, this place in South Carolina on the beach, and propose there, but I could not contain my excitement. So, and I had to stash this ring. I had to stash this ring somewhere, and I had this bucket. In those days, you could get a bucket of protein. I think you still can, but I had this bucket of protein because I was working out all the time. And it was a bucket of IsoPure protein, which is, in those days, that was like the best protein you could get because it had none of the lactose in it and it was just supposed to be pure protein.
Yeah.
I think it was just a marketing gimmick. Anyway, I bought this thing and I was like, oh, my wife will never look in here because she would, we had the place, where am I going to hide it? So I stuffed it in there. And then I asked her one day, I said, hey, babe, do you mind, I'm real tired from doing rows today. Do you mind making me a protein shake? And
Oh my God.
yeah, I know. And so she opens it up and she's digging in. She goes, oh, there's something in here. I said, oh, really? What could it be? Maybe it came with a prize. I don't know.
So it was in a box, obviously.
Yeah, it was in one of those little ring boxes. Yeah. And she saw what it was. She goes, what is this? I said, what do you think it is? And so then,
this is just happening in your kitchen. Just happening in your kitchen.
No, not even the kitchen. It was like I had it in my closet with all of my other supplements. And she was like dumping it into the thing, the little shaker bottle. And she found it, and I said, well, you married me. And that's kind of how it happened. It was like that. Very bro thing to do.
So you went from a romantic beach proposal to some protein powder.
Yes.
Nice. Well, let me just say, Mick, you look great. It's great to have you back in the studio.
Matthew.
We've missed you. We're going to have you around for a couple episodes at least.
You look great too, Matt.
Thanks. But, I'm up and down. You know how I go. But anyway, so let's jump into our topic because I think it's a real interesting topic. It's, like I said, been covered in the media a lot. Rob, I think you were quoted CBS News this week on the issue, correct?
That's right. I got to speak to a reporter. I think her name's Claire Himes from CBS. She's covered a few, at least one of the other cases that I've worked in the military, a sexual assault case, and she does a very good job. And so she had some questions for me, and that got published in the CBS article, which was one of the first articles to kind of come out and break what had been happening.
Yeah. And so what has happened is General Wells has been removed from his position in the Office of Special Trial Counsel. We'll talk about why, give your opinions as to whether that should have happened or shouldn't have happened. But I think most of our listeners will know exactly what the Office of Special Trial Counsel is and what it's going to do and all that. But for those who might not, can you give us a little bit of background on it? What is it? Why was it created? When is it supposed to be operational, or is it already? Either one of you guys want to weigh in on it?
Sure. The Office of Special Trial Counsel was designed, it was kind of like a compromise between the military and Congress to try to move away from taking the UCMJ away from the purview of the commanders and putting it into a neutral category where just lawyers kind of ran it. And so that is the design. And you have this one-star general who's at the top. He would be considered the special trial counsel, like the main dude, like the main prosecutor out there. And then underneath him would be all these other lawyers, 06s, 05s, and so on, who are kind of in charge of monitoring which cases go to trial. And then throughout the entire JAG Corps, you have these little sectors throughout the United States and the world and so on, and they have their own offices that they report back up to the OSTC.
And the reason this was created, Rob, is to avoid the issue of unlawful command influence. Is that basically what it is, or is it just to have a more specialized team handling the more serious criminal charges?
Yeah, no, it doesn't have a lot to do with UCI. My understanding of why it was created is because Congress and certain vocal victim advocates that are out there were unhappy with conviction rates regarding sexual assault in the military. And they felt the solution was to remove commanders from that decision-making authority and give it to lawyers. So more like actually a traditional system where we have prosecutorial discretion. I was in favor of the Office of Special Trial Counsel, primarily because I thought it would help streamline the military justice process a bit more. And I was very concerned about the existing political pressure on commands to move forward with sexual assault cases simply because an allegation was made. Lo and behold, that fear has now been tripled in light of the fact that General Wells has been fired for making comments 10 years ago when he was a defense lawyer. So I think the system is in a bit of disarray right now, but that's why the Office of Special Trial Counsel was created.
And there's supposed to be one for each branch, right? Is that the way it works?
Yeah.
There's not one overall, it's one for each branch, right, Nick?
That's correct.
Okay, and they're handling the most serious charges: rape, sexual assault, murder.
Yeah, well,
Correct.
usually, yeah, all those things. The military specific offenses, I think the command still has control over. AWOL, misbehavior before the enemy, if that's really a thing, I don't know. But those types of military specific offenses, commanders still have control over. But like the main ones, the 7 deadly sins, as I would call them, the sexual assaults, the kidnapping, the robberies, all that stuff goes through the OSTC.
Understood.
There's a whole list out there of categories of cases and types of cases that the Office of Special Trial Counsel has control over. We don't have that list with us, but Mick is right. It's certainly your sexual assault and your rape related cases.
All right, and so we'll jump into who is General Wells here in a second, but this is a good opportunity to put a disclaimer in for this episode, and it probably certainly applies to all of our episodes, and that is that none of the information given here is designed to be legal advice, doesn't create an attorney-client privilege with the folks in this room or the firm or anybody else, and these are opinions given today. This is an opinion show, so we're going to give our opinions. We're going to report the facts as we know them or they've been reported. But everything we say here is the opinion of us and just the opinion of us. All right. So now we've got that out of the way. The lawyers will be happy. General Wells, I did just a little bit of research on him. He's 27 years in the JAG Corps. He's held numerous positions, I think, as both a prosecutor and a defense attorney. He was nominated by the Secretary of the Army for this position. He was confirmed by Congress last December. And, I don't know, obviously have no personal knowledge of him, but he seems like a pretty well-credentialed guy, does he not?
Well, certainly. I mean, he's a Brigadier General in the United States Army JAG Corps. There is only a handful of general officers from the active duty JAG Corps and the reserves. So I would certainly describe him as a successful company man. There's no way around that.
Mickey, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you're going to stay in the JAG Corps, that's kind of the career that you want. It's the one that he's had, certainly.
Okay. All right. So then why was he removed? What exactly transpired that would cause his removal? Because he's only been in the position a year, right? And the office isn't completely operational at this point. Is that right?
So I don't think that we have, in our positions right now, I'm not sure we can say with 100% clarity exactly where the Office of the Special Trial Counsel is in terms of it being stood up. I know some of my sexual assault cases have representatives from the Office of Special Trial Counsel and the Army on them. I think, Mick, we saw some dates that it's supposed to be fully operational by the 23rd or 27th of December. But right now, I think it's in the works still, is the way that I would describe it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I remember, and this is going off memory here, that they had about a year to get it going, and we're about at that year mark now. And everything is geared towards it. It is supposed to be starting up here pretty soon, certainly before the new year. But like anything else in the military, they're kind of building the plane in flight. So you'll see them making adjustments as the year progresses and before everything is completely running smoothly.
But nevertheless, it's not an optimal time to have him removed from this position, right?
No, I imagine that it's an embarrassment to the United States Army.
Right, and he was removed because they found an email that was out there, kind of came to the forefront again last week, that where he said some certain things. Let's, I guess, just read the email.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead, man?
Or the part that's been reported, I guess. There might be more to it.
Read this horrible email that he wrote. I'd love to hear this.
So in part, as reported by CBS News and others, the email included the language, quote, "Expect no commander to be able to make objective decisions involving sexual assault allegations as long as Congress and our political masters are dancing by the fire of misleading statistics and one-sided, repetitive misinformation by those with an agenda." And then the email goes on to say, hopefully a soldier will be able to get a fair trial. You and your teams are now the only line of defense against false allegations and sobriety regret. You literally are the personal defenders of those no one will now defend, even when all signs indicate innocence. And so this was an email that the general sent out years ago, though, right? I mean, this goes back, I think, a decade. I think it's a 10-year-old email, from what I understand.
That's correct. I think at the time, General Wells was lieutenant colonel. He was a regional defense counsel, I think out of Fort Riley or kind of that Midwest division or region. And this was sent to his senior trial counsel. And yeah, I mean, he was leading defense lawyers at the time. That was his job, was to help defend service members.
Rob, let me ask you, did anything in that email offend you?
Here's what I find offending. I'll tell you what I find offensive, I should say. Expect no commander to be able to make objective decisions involving sexual assault allegations. That's what he says. Isn't that the reason his office was created in the first place? Because Congress and President Biden didn't feel that commanders could make objective decisions regarding sexual assault. Isn't that why they created the Office of Special Trial Counsel? Am I the only person that reads this email and goes, this is kind of funky? He's confirming what Congress believed and what allegedly the President of the United States believed that led to the creation of the position that he's now been fired for. Or fired from.
But the reasoning is different, right? The reasoning is different.
I don't know. The answer to Mickey's question is the only thing that offended me was the fact that he was fired by the Secretary of the Army, which I thought was entirely uncalled for.
Yeah, if anything, I would say that this bolsters his credentials. You would want a guy who has been on both sides of the line when making these charging decisions. Like, he's in charge of the whole thing. And you're telling me you just want a zealot up there, one guy that's singularly focused on just prosecuting people and not looking at it from the point of view of the accuser and the accused? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
My question in a moment is going to be, does context matter? Because the reporting said that this email was in response to another commander being removed for failure to prosecute sexual assault allegations. That's what I read, or if I understood it correctly, was that this email sent by General Wells back a decade ago was in response, and perhaps out of frustration, although I'm not going to put words in the man's mouth, out of frustration that another commander was being removed, another JAG, I'm assuming, was being removed because
that's kind of ironic.
Prosecuted.
What I think happened, and I have not confirmed this. This was not something I spoke to CBS about or any of the other folks that had called our office for some comment. But I had thought that it was a JAG officer who had refused to prosecute a case that they felt the client was innocent. Either way, whether it was the command that made a decision that said we're not going forward or the prosecutor, good on the commander and good on the prosecutor.
Yeah, and that's probably right. I said command. I probably am using the wrong terminology as I normally do on this show, but it was somebody else in charge of prosecuting
correct
charges who decided not to do it, and then he sent this email.
Correct. And that hit home for me a little bit because part of the reason my motivation for getting out of the JAG Corps was I didn't want to spend another minute of my time prosecuting cases that I didn't believe in, period. And that was a motivating factor for why we started Capovilla Williams in the first place. The dirty secret that every military justice practitioner knows is the United States Army is far more aggressive with sexual assault cases than any of the state or federal governments, Mickey, that we've worked with. They go forward with cases all the time that I look at and say, if I was the prosecutor, I would have an ethical problem with this.
Yeah, we've got some of those cases right now, in fact. So, yeah, I think if I'm in the JAG Corps and I'm seeing this and I'm a defense attorney, I'm concerned. How far can I go? How far can I do my job before I start getting looked at? Kind of like in the Gilmet case. We've talked, I think, at length about that case with those attorneys. What happened to them when they went to the meeting and the JAG there said you're shielded but not protected.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the same thing, but I think on a grander scale, because here you have the Secretary of the Army removing a guy for doing his job. I mean, that he was basically telling folks, hey, you're the last line of defense as a defense attorney. And that was too far for them. You're not allowed to do that.
Does it matter how long ago it was? I mean, I can tell you it does to me. And I think we see a lot of this in our society in general today where people are digging up things that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago. But in your opinions, do you think it matters? It certainly matters the position he was in at the time, right? Because his job is to kind of rally and kind of, motivate his team to provide a good defense for folks, right? But does it matter how long ago the email was sent to you guys or not really?
I don't think that makes as big a difference in this case, right? I don't think the timing of it matters. He was a senior officer at the time, and certainly somebody that had, forward-looking vision in what he wanted to have happen in his career. So if it was something more egregious, where he came out and said something that deserved to, lead to his removal as a flag officer and as the head of the Office of Special Trial Counsel, I don't think it would have mattered to me whether it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. As an officer, you're responsible for your conduct. But this email, to be fired for this is absurd to me. Mick, what do you think? Do you think the timing matters?
Of the 10 years ago? No, I don't think that matters. I think what matters here is that a guy was fired for doing his dang job. Like, that is crazy to me. I mean, and I will say this about General Wells. I don't know the man, but I think he made a mistake by apologizing. I never would apologize for that. I would have stuck to my guns and went on with that. And then I also think his next mistake was staying in the JAG Corps that long. Like, if you have these concerns 10 years ago about the system that you're serving, why the heck are you staying in? Unless when you become the OSTC, you can actually affect change. And maybe that was his goal. I don't know. But those are the two mistakes I think he made.
Well, I think I'm very disappointed in his apology. I suppose it was fine to apologize for the quote about misleading statistics, even though I think that's 100% accurate. Tracking these things is inherently difficult, but false allegations happen every day. And there are people listening to this podcast who have been our clients, who have been falsely accused. And there's mothers and fathers who have had sons that have been falsely accused listening to this podcast. And I can tell you one thing with certainty. This email does nothing for Capovilla Williams except strengthen our backbone and our mission. Because Mickey's right. What does this mean for Army Trial Defense Services? I'll tell you what I think it means. And this is what I told CBS. They didn't quote this part of our interview. I think it means you can be decent at your job as a defense lawyer or try to be decent, but you better not be too good, because if you're too good or you're too aggressive, this is going to be you when you start making it in the JAG Corps. They're going to pull up an email that you sent about an alleged victim from 2023 who was clearly lying, who had a clear motive to fabricate, and they're going to fire you. And if you're a TDS officer and you've got dreams of making it in the JAG Corps, you better be careful. And that's just a fact. So from my perspective, this does nothing more for Mickey and I than to clarify our mission moving forward. Because I can tell you one person that the Secretary of the Army cannot fire is me, and another person is Mickey Williams. So I want to make that clear to folks that this does nothing but clarify our mission moving forward.
Rob, you brought up his apology or statement. Let's read at least part of that, as it's, again, been reported in the news. And this is the statement from General Wells after he was removed. In an email I sent 10 years ago as a regional defense counsel to my senior defense counsel, my comments were inappropriate in my description of policymakers' concerns about sexual assault. My intent was to reinforce that defense counsel are a critical protection for soldiers accused of wrongdoing, especially when there is outside pressure to convict. I do not want my comments from that time to divert attention from the excellent work being done by the new Office of Special Trial Counsel to prosecute special victim crimes and care for victims. And what do you guys think when Rob, you commented a little bit what you think. Mickey, what do you think about that statement in itself?
I think it's a hostage letter. I think he was forced to write that. He had to write something and trying to save his job, and he puts this out. Listen, does he really believe that? I don't know. Maybe he's had a change of heart. But 10 years ago, he didn't believe that, right? So, and Rob said it best earlier. The reason why the OSTC was created was for the very sentiment that he expressed in his email early on. right? That the command does not exercise discretion anymore. Like they're just going to do whatever the JAGs tell them to do. And that's what they've been doing. And he calls that out 10 years ago. And now he's being burned at the stake for it. I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that this part where he says, was to reinforce that defense counsel are a critical protection for soldiers accused of wrongdoing, especially when there is outside pressure to convict. He almost admits.
He does.
He almost admits in his statement. I think this gentleman might be a defense attorney at heart.
Well, he's
feeling it. Like he's feeling, I think he's feeling kind of how accused feel. Like he's being persecuted right now. So he's kind of on the defensive a little bit. But I would have gone all the way, man. I would have called people out saying this is a witch hunt. Like you guys know what you're doing. Like he's going down anyway. What's he got to lose? Right?
And that's precisely why Mickey and I had to get out. To become a general officer in the United States Army, you've got to be a good politician. It's that simple. Mickey and I are not good politicians.
Clearly.
Clearly.
Nobody in this room is.
No. Maybe Rich is. Maybe our producer is. Who knows?
We've heard Rich.
Oh, wait. We never played the music that we wanted.
Rich, hit the General Wells fire music.
So dumb.
That's kind of silly, but I like it.
Is there any point in talking about the background on how the email came out and who that was provided by? Or
it's kind of interesting, but ultimately it doesn't really matter.
We don't know a whole lot about it, right? I mean, apparently there was some kind of investigation because he upset somebody, and the investigation was unsubstantiated, and that person who was the accuser or the alleged victim of the investigation or something along those lines, I guess, released this email or something. But I don't even know if that's been fully confirmed, and I don't know what those allegations were. There's a lot of things that could have, there's a lot that could amount to a complaint like that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to comment on that too much, but it is a little bit odd how this comes out 10 years later. I'm wondering if that particular individual, Mickey, as you said before the show, might have had an agenda to bring down General Wells.
Well, I do know this, according to the reports anyway, that there were like unfounded allegations of sexual harassment or something akin to that.
Yeah, I didn't read anything about sexual harassment. Not that I saw. I saw something along the lines of like hostile work environment, those kind of traditional terms.
Whatever it was, this individual who made this complaint, I think, had lodged those complaints, and they were unfounded. So could that be the motivation? Who knows? I guess we'll never know, but that is curious.
The funny part about all this to Mickey and I is when he was appointed, he gave a speech.
Oh, I was going to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we watched the speech. Mickey and I did, because obviously, I don't think it's any secret at this point that we're a very well-known name in military justice. And we try to keep up with these things. And General Wells is somebody we would have certainly have had some communication with had he stayed in his position. And we listened to the speech. And at the end of the speech, from what I recall, he talks about how his office is going to strive for fairness. And he lists like 6 or 7 people the process is going to be fair to. And then he goes, also the accused. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. And we were like, here we go.
So maybe not a defense lawyer.
No.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
well, would it be inappropriate to speculate about his future, or irrelevant to speculate about his future?
Yeah, I know what's going to happen. If I were him, I'd resign. You just got fired from a job.
No, he'll retire. No, he's not going to resign.
Well, that's what I mean. Retire, right? I'd retire. Like, you just got he's humiliated. Where's he going to go? Yeah. Everyone's going to be like, oh, that's the guy. So he's gonna get out, maybe start his own practice, maybe be a competitor, maybe work for us. I don't know. Wouldn't that be great? But I don't think his time in the JAG Corps is very long.
No, I don't know how all that works. I don't have enough connections or ties to the upper echelon of the JAG Corps to know how they handle general officer misconduct, besides the fact that we've been able to represent some folks with some pretty high ranks and get some sense of how all of that works. But in this particular scenario, I don't think we have a lot of personal knowledge how the JAG Corps will handle that. I would be curious to know if he gets to retire as a brigadier general, because I think his rank is based upon the position that he held.
Well,
so I don't know if he'll lose his. I don't know if he'll lose his rank or not.
Do you think he gets to refer to OER for this?
I don't know.
I mean, how crazy would that be?
I don't know.
Because if he does, then he's going to get bumped down to 06.
We got to remember the person that fired him is part of the administration, right? Works for the President of the United States. The JAG Corps didn't fire him. The TJAG didn't fire him. I have heard some things behind the scenes that folks generally think this was an overreaction by our administration. I will say that I think that the Biden administration sends a very clear message here to the United States Army and to the different branches of the DoD that is very concerning, which is we're not really interested in fair trials. We're interested in catering to the victim advocate lobbyists. That is scary. That is very, very scary. And that's the takeaway from me. I'm not a political man. Matt and Mickey know I don't like politics. I don't watch any news. I pretty much read and study military justice. But I think this is a disgrace, and I think it's a reflection of what I think is an incredibly weak administration.
What bothers you most about it, Mick? Same thing that bothers you most? Mine is a little bit different. I'm not in the circle y'all are in, but what bothers you most about what's transpired here?
Well, I guess I'm not bothered by it. I'm not surprised by it either. It's just, for me, it just solidifies, it strengthens, the reasons for me and Rob getting out. I mean, we saw this 10 years ago, right? We saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, thank God we got out of there. There's just no room in the JAG Corps for honest men. There just isn't. You can't take on your cases the way you want to, because if you do, and I still have friends who call me and complain about other people getting promoted that were really, really slime ball prosecutors, and then defense counsel who did really good jobs not getting the good jobs. And I mean, that's just the culture now.
Well, we know personally good defense lawyers that got passed over because they upset SJAs by being aggressive and by being a high-level defense attorney. I joke all the time with people, and I stand by this. Here's the culture today in the United States Army. If you so much as fart in front of a person who is otherwise sensitive, or a female, or somebody that would find the passing of gas to be offensive, they will hit you with sexual harassment. That's how crazy.
That's a fact. You had a case like that.
That's how crazy it's gotten.
Or was that Dan? Was that Dan's case?
That was Dan's case.
Okay,
We did have a fart case. I don't think it went anywhere. But of course, I'm joking to some extent. But like, that's honestly how I feel. If you fart in front of the wrong person now, you're going to get hit with a sexual harassment allegation. The Biden administration has a policy that says every founded allegation of sexual harassment will go to a separation board. So your whole career is going to be in jeopardy because you farted in front of somebody. And that's not that much of an exaggeration for where we are right now.
Well, I tend to agree with that one, to be honest with you.
You wouldn't like being farted on?
No, I don't think so.
Matt's
like, Matt, you better not edit that part out. This is funny. People like this stuff.
We know you. But no, listen. Here's the deal. If you're going to stay in the military, this is. I mean, you're gambling. You're gambling. If you're going to be a JAG officer and be a defense attorney, it's a gamble for you.
Well, don't encourage all these folks to get out, though. We don't need a bunch of competitors.
No,
my job.
I'm not telling them anything they don't already know. All these people know this, but they get what I would call job lock. Like, oh, the health insurance is good. I might get this job, whatever it is. Is it worth this? I mean, look at this dude, 27 years, he was going to be in 07. Matt says he's well-credentialed, all this stuff, a storied career, and he's brought down by just saying the quiet part out loud. Like, it's just crazy.
And what bothers me most about it, and again, I have a different, I look through this stuff a different lens than you guys clearly, but I just don't like the idea of digging things up from that far in the past. And
what do you got, Matt? What do you got?
Especially when you're in a position,
How many people have you farted on, Matt, that you're worried about now?
They could dig up a lot of stuff on me, but it's 10 years ago, and he's in a position where he's supposed to be advocating for his team.
How the heck do they have an email from 10 years ago? I remember when I was in, after like 6 months, like, you got to clear your inbox. It's getting too full. How do they find this freaking stuff?
They keep that stuff. Yeah. Don't you worry. They've got a safe somewhere, probably at Fort Eisenhower in the NSA building.
I better call my buddy, tell him, hey, find my stuff. Get rid of it.
So last question. Does this impact the Office of Special Trial Counsel at all? It looks like they already put a replacement in, right? I mean, they moved quickly to put a replacement
find somebody. It's the Army. Nobody is, what do we call them? Indispensable? possible.
The Biden administration will find the biggest victim advocate they possibly can and promote them.
They should
That's what's going to happen.
They should put your buddy Christensen in there. They should just go out there, be like, "Hey, man, we got an opening. I know you're not in, but hey, what do you think?"
He was an Air Force guy. Who knows? He might be interested in taking that position. They might bring him in, but my guess is they'll go get a victim advocate, and that'll be that. And
I think they may have already filled it.
No, they temporarily filled it with an 06 who was, I think, Wells's deputy. They're going to have a permanent solution. And my guess right now, mark my words, is it'll be somebody that has extensive SVC time or SVP time. And that's the world we're living in right now. And that's why it's more important than ever that folks like Mickey and I are on our game.
That's right. One thing I want to say, Matt, I know you want to end it.
No, go ahead, Mick.
I want to say this because I said if he gets to refer to OER, he's going to get bumped down to 06. A lot of people are going to be like, you can't reduce an officer with blah, blah, blah. There's this thing called a retirement review process that when you're going through retirement, they go through your entire file to see if you have any misconduct in there. And if you do, they can reduce you in rank to the grade that you were before the misconduct.
I don't know if they're going to consider this misconduct. I don't think they will. I think it's just they're looking at it as
dude, they fired him.
Yeah, but I think it's because it's
all
not
over the news.
It's not in line with the Biden agenda is why he was fired. Let's just be honest. It's not. There's no misconduct here.
Let's put money on it.
I do like how Mickey clarified though, because we have our fact checker, right?
Yeah, we got the ombudsman. There's that ombudsman dude out there, and he sends in emails all the time, specifically about me.
Yeah, we got a guy that like refers to himself. I think it's like the Air Force JAG or something, and he sends us corrections just about every episode or something like that. But I don't think it's misconduct. But I do think what I don't know is I don't think he'll keep his rank because I think the rank is commiserate with the position, and he's not in the position anymore. So I don't know how that works. That's above.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that.
That's above my. I don't have any knowledge on that.
I think we've given final thoughts, but anything to close the show out, Mick?
Good luck to you, Wells. I hope you do well out there, man. It's gonna be different. Your life isn't over, but it will be different.
Yeah, and we support you for whatever it's worth. I imagine you've got a lot of support, but I don't know him at all. Never even heard of him until he was appointed to this position. But this is a disgrace what's happened to this officer.
Yeah, and good luck to whoever takes the position.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
Would you want that job?
No.
No, thank you.
No, but somebody will take it. Somebody will take it and do the best they can with it. And my guess is prosecute a lot of cases that shouldn't be prosecuted.
All right, guys. Well, great episode today. Very interesting topic. Obviously, a very current topic. We'll get this released ASAP. But we thank all of our listeners again. Happy holidays to y'all. We'll talk to you later and be safe out there.
Thanks for listening to the Military Justice Today podcast with your hosts, Robert Capovilla and Mickey Williams. This show was made possible in part by the law firm of Capovilla and Williams. For more information or to listen to more episodes, visit militaryjusticetoday.com.